Hi, everybody, and welcome to our DPAA session at Advertising Week today. Programmatic digital out-of-home, state-of-the-art, or more aptly put, out-of-home and programmatic, the best of both worlds without the bad bits. So all media and advertising have experienced downturns during this time. Out-of-home, which is one of the fastest growing media coming into COVID, was particularly impacted. But the news today is that regions are opening up. Audiences are coming back, and it's a great medium for brands to reach consumers. We're going to focus today on two dynamic areas. Firstly, out-of-home has embraced what has supercharged our daily lives, financial markets, and of course, advertising, and that is the power of digitization. From a sign on a building or a roadside, we used to have an ad up there for a month, and now we can change that ad dynamically by time, by temperature, by news, by content, and by the available audience in front of the screen. We have new data sources available. We can now operate from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the marketing funnel. And what is also supercharged all of this is digital out-of-home programmatic. In this time of COVID especially, where everyone's seen that digital agility and optionality is key, programmatic out-of-home offers myriad opportunities to pause and push schedules, to change by location, by available audience, add automation, and take out all the friction of contracts and the like. So we have an esteemed panel today of experts to speak readily on this subject. Also note, much of this will be covered at the Video Everywhere Summit, and that is going to videoeverywheresummit.com, where we'll have global brand CMOs, WP's Mark Reed, and other important speakers in the world of advertising and media. First, I'd like to introduce Barry Cupples, who is the global CEO of Talon. In addition to that, we've got Edith Gagne, who's the VP of Programmatic Sales at Broadsign. We've got Dave Etherington, who's the Chief Commercial Director at Place Exchange, and Jonathan Gudai, who's the CEO of Adomni. Okay, everybody, let's start with the big news. Regions are opening up, people are coming back out. Dave, what are you seeing in terms of audiences coming out and consumer confidence?
Well, I mean, certainly at the beginning of COVID epidemic, out-of-home was hit as all other media channels were hit. The good news is we have had access to great audience data, whether it's Geopath here in the United States. Also, Apple and Google came out with some great numbers as well. And I think that buyer confidence is returning. I think, being able to buy the medium at scale programmatically, I think has been a great avenue back for many brands, because as you mentioned at the beginning in your introduction, the notion that you can buy this medium in a non-guaranteed format. In other words, you don't have to worry about a 2-week negotiation with a media owner about make goods based upon your own confidence, market by market, I think is a tool that's tailor-made for times like this. In addition, the ability to have every buy imbued with performance metrics and advanced targeting, again, kind of, the second nature of programmatic, I think is very helpful. I was actually talking to a CMO of the biggest soft drinks company in the world a couple of weeks ago, and he said he will only be returning to the medium programmatically. He said he wants to have his dessert at the same time as his dinner, meaning that he wants to be able to see the efficacy of the medium at the same time. So, I think in the same way that I'm probably not going back to Whole Foods because the food's arriving when I use the app every Sunday, I think many brands now are buying the medium programmatically, and it's giving them a confidence, almost like a safety net, to return to the medium. And I know that the direct buys will be following shortly thereafter.
That's great to hear. From other parts of the world, Barry, what are you seeing, say, in Asia and Europe?
I think to Dave's point, what we've got is some fantastic touch points through not just our own technology in Ada, where we're looking in depth at what audiences are doing around the world, but also some other great research bases. I think we always talk about deterministic data. What we've got at the moment is a very clear indication that there are a ton of more people around and on the streets as consumers than there were 3 months ago. You've all heard me bang on and on about performance media being something the industry is still really paying lip service to. Evidence economy and out-of-home is there for anybody if they want to touch on it. The reality of how you buy the medium and the output from the medium is much higher or much better than it has been for many, many years. I'm in a bright spot. I think that we're looking at an upturn and a genuine bounce forward within the medium. I take the point that Dave made. about the research that sits behind it. I just wish people would pay more attention to it. There'd be more money spent in out of home if they did.
That's a great point. We've been seeing also UBIMO data has indicated every week with DPAA data that audiences are coming back. In fact, there'll be a campaign organized around that. And as Dave said, programmatic is a way to really target the audiences where they are and shift schedules if need be. So Dave's company is a broad SSP. We also have Edith here, who also has an SSP, and then Jonathan runs a DSP and an SSP. So Jonathan, you see audiences coming out, and how has programmatic been able to target them?
Absolutely. So in many ways, what's happened over COVID has accelerated a pace of evolution that the industry was already going through. And so during the past 6 months, we've seen a significant amount of supply get activated and layered into the programmatic ecosystem. So today you have over 250,000 connected screens in just the US that is now addressable. And also the way that you can target those screens is easier than ever. There's more DSPs now, whether it's the Omnichannel DSPs or it's the channel DSPs like ours, that have enabled a hands-on keys access to those screens. And so much to what Dave was saying about that soft drink brand that said that this is kind of the new norm, this is how they want to buy, we're seeing that as well through the Adomni DSP. You know, there are campaigns that just recently launched for some sports betting apps, for example, that otherwise we're just going to stick with the Facebook, Google. But when they realized that they can go in and they could target the markets and then they could shift budgets, and if God forbid something happened with sports that was negative, they could pause it. That gave them the confidence to say, let's invest in this channel and let's make sure that we can use these large format screens as a complement to everything that they were doing on the small screen. So it's really exciting, to be honest with you. As tough as it's been in the market, there's been a lot of exciting things happening, and it's kind of setting the stage for kind of the next generation of what digital out of home is.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you look at mobile, you look at video, you look at display, that is all majority traded programmatically today. We are also fast moving in that direction for the indicator reasons. We've got a little bit of the complexion of the US and London. How about rest of world, Edith? You're based in Montreal, yet Broadsign operates across all continents as a supply side. Are you seeing programmatic grow in the same fashion?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting, I think, is that realistically, I think programmatic is still relatively nascent, as much as it feels for those of us who've been working in this for several years already that we're past the point of saying that. But honestly, I think there's still some education. We have some work to do in terms of showing the value to buyers, and this is a great opportunity to do that. By emphasizing a lot of the things that were already said, the flexibility, the different options in terms of precision targeting across all the inventory that's connected. We're seeing that through the multitude of DSPs that we work with, whether they're omnichannel or specialized, particularly in digital out of home. One of the major things that I find really important to emphasize too is how quickly audience data refreshes are reflected across these different platforms in a particular time like this. That's of utmost importance to advertisers, and I think that's where we can show how much value we can really bring to advertisers.
Thanks, Edith. Barry, Talon's got a great legacy in starting in the UK as an out-of-home specialist, and has now broadened to global markets and really coming to the US in a big way. Could you speak to some of the plans of Talon and also some of the core attributes of out-of-home advertising that has made it up until COVID the fastest growing of traditional media?
Yeah, we've been very lucky. So we've joined the market arguably at the right time, because it's COVID has focused a lot of people's mind around some topics which I was toying with for many years at Omnicom and really didn't have an answer to. There's two things in there. The first one is that I'll take Edith's point and just build on what the guys said. Programmatic's opened up a new dimension in out of home. I've often, looked at out of home as the poor relation, as many people have. It's had a place at the top table for years, but in truth, it's been living off scraps. I think the reality is that Programmatic's put a plate underneath the out of home place at the table. And I think they're not going to live off scraps anymore. If we're aggressive and really honest about the value equation for all media, there's no reason why 7 and 3% won't be 10 and 15 respectively. And the second thing that sits behind it is agency planners have woken up to a reality that the world we live in, which is output-based, performance-related, data-rich, and evidence economy-based, which it should be, comes back to something that's been long forgotten, which is if you have got great planners and great strategists and not led by price, because pricing and planning and strategy are not bedfellows. Planning and strategy crush price-led strategy in all meaningful measures that are KPI'd. Price determines very little beyond buying cheaply. And so therefore, planning and strategy, because of the things that programmatic does, it dissects all of those normal things that people would throw in, I can buy it cheaper. They're no longer really valuable. They never were. But now you can literally blow a hole in them very easily through programmatic. And out of home has joined that table where we were struggling before because it's panel led. In very many occasions, that's gone. It's not. It's cost per thousand, output, dimensional led through things that the guys were talking about earlier. You've got very, very sophisticated players in DSPs and SSPs. You know, people that aren't operating through those systems, people that don't understand them, their clients aren't getting value. It's that simple. And if they're using something that isn't through those things, they should rethink it.
It's great having folks like you and Out of Home now who have been at the big agencies overseeing many regions and many media. So you certainly bring that branding and strategy perspective to it. And you're right, Barry, you know, we've seen in the past couple of years that Out of Home has now drawn budgets heretofore dedicated to video or television or mobile or location and digital money. So that share shifting is taking place. And largely where it's taking place is in this omnichannel world, working with the DSPs of omnichannel that are now opening up more pipes for us to connect and drive revenues into out of home. And we've seen that happen, Dave, with SSPs and DSPs. And I think you've a lot of experience in seeing that. And Place Exchange has been formidable in growing that model of omnichannel advertising directed towards out of home. Could you speak to the omnichannel bits there?
Sure, and you know, really in support of what Barry just said, I think the out-of-home medium has been underpriced and undermarketed for a long time, and you know, the notion of being able to access the medium through these big omni channels, whether it's the Trade Desk or MediaMath or you know, or whomever, Verizon, whomever, in a consolidated way, just means that the physical world now is targetable by those same KPIs that were previously thought just the area of other media. And really, it's funny, the sort of experiences we've had. What we set out to do is kind of remove those friction-filled edges so that somebody could access one of these DSPs and set up the campaigns in exactly the same way. Same device level attribution, same pacing, even the same third-party ad server support. But when a digital buyer walks through New York and sees their ad campaign on a giant billboard on the side of the street, as happened actually when we ran a campaign for Philadelphia cream cheese, they just couldn't believe it. The power of our medium, the inherent power of being able to stop people in their stride with creative that will keep you talking with your colleagues and friends, you know, for days later. That impact compared to an ad on a mobile device or whatever it is, I think, you know, you said at the beginning, taking the best of both worlds. I think Barry's been talking about this kind of performance-led aspect of the medium. Add that to its creative abilities and be able to buy it in a frictionless way. I think we've got something that I absolutely believe what Barry just said. We can grow the share of this medium on its strengths. And I think that the idea that these big omni-channel DSPs are absolutely taking this seriously and in the game because they want to be part of the medium, I think is tremendously exciting for all of us.
Yeah, and I think the inherent strengths, especially in this world, which is ever changing, to have a physical screen there that is real, that is touchable, that connects to the digital world, and also a medium that is not skippable, where there's no viewability issues, there's no fraud issues. It's becoming pretty powerful. In fact, DPAA has done an array of research with media planners around the world that has said, to your points, Barry and Dave, if we take the friction out, if we make more automation happen, if we make it easier to buy, take out the lineage, the heritage, and all the legacy systems, the share of an ideal brand may go closer to 20% than where it is today. So that's an exciting thing to shoot for. And Dave Etherington talked about KPIs, and Jonathan, you've had a lot of success in building out brands over programmatic, and some of them basically launched with you. Wasn't there a fashion brand that launched only on out of home and with Adomni?
That's right. So certainly, I think what you're referring to is the Kylie Jenner, the Kylie Skin campaign, where within a 2-day time frame, they launched in pretty much every single DMA in the US on over 4,000 digital billboards. And so the scale is certainly there. It's what I was mentioning earlier. Now it's in these platforms where you can build campaigns and launch them in minutes or in days in that frictionless way. But what's really exciting, and why I think more and more omnichannel DSPs are leaning in, is the notion that it does drive performance results. And this was proven in a recent study. I don't know if you guys saw what Facebook put out, where they really strong data, where they looked at 6,000 users' behavior, and they compared a campaign where it was just Facebook ads versus Facebook ads with a digital out-of-home or out-of-home component. And what they saw was that it was 13% more efficient to combine the two mediums together than to do just Facebook ads alone. And so if you're putting $100,000 into Facebook, if you were to peel that back and combine that with both Facebook and out-of-home, you could add $40,000, $50,000 more return than if you had just done the Facebook. So it's things like that that get, I think, performance marketers excited about not just the ability to have another channel to add to the mix, but to really provide the results and the business outcomes that they want. And it's that significant, double-digit percentage differences.
You're right about that. And
Barry, just to add to Jonathan's point, as well as the kind of performance measure, I think we all know which part of that media plan the audience trusted the most as well. I mean, like the consumer trust we have in this medium is also, particularly in political season, I think is something that's going to set us up for success for the final quarter of this year as well.
That's a great point. And the political parts are very important. Actually, we'll have a political pundit at our summit this year, Frank Luntz, who's going to give us some inside Washington data on what's happening there. Edith, Broadsign grew out of its CMS platform with tentacles all over the world. And how are you utilizing data and just the growth of your big footprint to continue to deliver for brands and advertisers?
Well, for us, it's really all about flexibility and accessibility. Those are the two sort of pillars behind everything that we've done to really make digital out of home easy and frictionless and accessible, regardless of your strategy. There's an appropriate, accessible method of buying digital out of home now, regardless of which DSP you're using. If you want to be more specialized, if you're going omnichannel, we're seeing a multitude of different types of campaigns that are running now, and yes, advertisers are coming back, so we're super happy to see that. We have some stuff running for Lexus, for example, targeting specific dealers, trying to bring people into those particular dealerships, and they can measure the performance of that. There's Scotiabank running interesting campaigns targeting particular audiences. Things like that, and really emphasizing the flexibility and accessibility. And that's really our mission, to make buyers aware of all these different options, because they may not have considered out of home before, but now there's so many options and so much data to support regardless the strategy and the measurement behind it that's already been alluded to by some of the other speakers.
In the evolution of Talon, you folks are developing platforms in Europe and in the US, and with the goal, I assume, of making the whole transaction planning and buying process more automated and more facile. Is that what your goals are? And
yeah, the reality is, for me, the guys just explained really well the seamless transactional reality of media today. We're at the table. We've always been at the table, but as I said, we didn't have a plate. We were feeding on scraps. We've got the capability with a plate in front of us now to generally, we could compete. If we wanted to park our tanks on the lawn of people that were selling video that are trying to get into programmatic out of home, no names mentioned, the reality is I could do that because we've got the capability, because we built the technology, so we've got a marketplace if we wish to trade that way. I just want to echo the sentiments that the guys have had. We've got to remember the service that we're all in. Advertising has a really clear but very basic output, which is that we've got to help clients sell more stuff. So we've got to have an effect on the top line that has an effect on the bottom line. If anybody can tell me from starting a creative concept all the way through to execution, something that will work harder or better with more fame, more of the things that Jonathan and Dave and Edith mentioned, please tell me what it is. Because I worked for 30 years trying to show it in other mediums. Now I'm in out of home. I see it's ridiculous how clearly I see it now. But out of home has more capability to drive outputs and affect the top and bottom line than any other media. It's about time everybody woke up to that fact.
So we're really now going from the top of the funnel, which we've always done well with branding and reach, and operating right down through the middle and the end of the funnel where we could affect sales and really move the needle. So that's a great time. Are the Omnichannel folks seeing this, Dave?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's why they've all, dived in head first into the medium. And, the attribution methodologies that they all use, certainly working with us, we kind of enable them to run the same attribution methodologies for out of home. We essentially pass them the atomic elements they need to make that work and see how the medium contributes to, as Jonathan pointed out before, whether it's social media or display or video campaigns. DSPs like Verizon are built on performance, and it's great to see them diving into our medium. And beyond that, just being able to kind of onboard first-party audience segments. You work with Dentsu, for example, and they've got Merkle. Do a plan with Merkle segments, see how those segments perform against KPIs, whether it's kind of people buying things, putting things into shopping baskets, optimize the campaign throughout its lifetime. Suddenly you've got in the physical world exactly the same kind of performance as you have in the online world. So yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the fundamental components that the omnichannels wanted when they embarked upon working with this medium.
Well said. What we're going to do now, we'd like to get to know our speakers kind of a little more closely, a little more familiar-wise. So we try to end up with a flash round. I'm going to ask a couple of quick questions, and if you give me some quick answers. If I go around and I say back in office when, what would you say, Edith?
2021.
Dave?
Tomorrow morning. True story.
Jonathan?
Hybrid in 2020 and hopefully more in 2021.
And we could see that Barry is in his office. Quick one word or two on the outlook for digital out of home, Mr. Cupples.
Bright.
Mr. Etherington.
Dominant.
Dominant, I like that. Mr. Gudai.
Performant.
Ah, excellent. And Edith?
Growth.
Excellent. Give us a quick, what TV shows you guys been binging during COVID? Edith?
Home renovation shows.
Yes, they're doing great. Dave?
The 5-part Paul McCartney documentary on YouTube. Breathtaking.
Oh, it's great. Jonathan?
Two things. Hockey. I'm in Vegas, so Vegas Golden Knights. And I've got a 3-year-old, so there's been a lot of Daniel Tiger neighborhood in our household. Great.
Barry, what have you been watching? Baza?
Can't compete with that. It's very, very, very straightforward. Things like The Crown and Downton Abbey.
Excellent. And, this is part of Advertising Week and upcoming the presidential election in the U.S. will be there soon. Any comment on that, Edith, in the U.S. presidential election?
High stakes. Go vote.
Nice. Dave?
Back off the wagon.
Barry?
Oh, God, that's a great line, Dave. I'd say I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment and I hope in God we trust.
Ooh, that's pretty good. And knowing the Fifth Amendment is you're evidently a global kind of guy. And Jonathan, what do you think coming forward for the U.S. presidential election and politics?
I think whoever does October best from the standpoint of messaging, communications, that leads to people showing up.
Right. Nice way to end it. Messaging and communications as programmatic and out of home has the best of both worlds and without all the bad bits. So thank you very much to our esteemed panel and Advertising Week.
Thank you.